Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Grant Johnson, voice actor, and he is helping independent creators bring their stories to life by lending his voice to 10,000 projects from commercials to animation. Welcome to the show, Grant.
Thanks, Ajay. Glad to be here.
You are welcome to the show. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We'll be talking about utilizing voice actors for business growth. So, my first question to you, Grant, is to understand, we know about voice, using of voice for advertisements and all. But help us, how are in this present times when the artificial intelligence and all these things have come, how are actually people utilizing it, going
Sure.
at this present moment, so that, the audience understand how this voice is being used in several parts of the industry.
Right. So did you want to talk specifically about how AI plays into it, or?
We will come to the AI part later on,
Okay.
just purely in terms of who is using, voice nowadays, your voice or any other voice.
Yeah. So voice acting has really been utilized for a long time now. I think some of the earliest, I think, there were silent films back in the 20s, but I think just about since we started to have sound in movies, people started to get brought into recording studios and do voiceover. And, initially it was just things like commercials and films and those types of things. But nowadays there's, you can have a voiceover for just about anything that you can think of that has audio. So as long as you're working with somebody who has some experience with the acting portion of things, and that's really, I think, the biggest takeaway is to make sure that you're working with somebody who has some of that experience. If they don't, they're going to miss out on some of the contextual things that they're going to need to understand, how to perform different types of scripts, because they're going to have different kinds of audiences, and you don't want somebody who's going to give, kind of a dramatic presentation or a dramatic interpretation to a corporate narration, or some audiobooks. I mean, some audiobooks you might want that, ones especially like the fiction. But if you're doing a nonfiction and you're doing all of these crazy character voices, I think they might be missing the boat a little bit.
Right. So, Grant, to understand, how did you get into voice acting, and what did you think that you can get into voice acting? How did you feel? I'm asking this question so that, in today's time, a lot of people, especially in smaller areas, they may have a good voice, or they may feel that they have a good voice, but they don't know that they can go forward. So that is why I'm asking, so that if they are feeling it, if they have somebody has told them, how do you test it? How do you go forward? I want to understand in that backdrop.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. So again, one thing that a lot of people, like you kind of mentioned there, they'll hear somebody tell them, "Oh, you've got a great voice. You should do voiceover." And I think the main thing to realize nowadays is that because there's so many opportunities and there's so many different ways that you can get into the industry, there's no one right way anymore. But the thing that you want to focus on, there's kind of a hierarchy, I would say, to the types of things that you should be looking at doing in order to get into the voiceover industry. So the first thing, like I mentioned in the last question, is you want to be working on your acting chops. You need to understand the three basic components of a story, which are the characters, the relationship to each other, the location that you're going to be in for the story. So, whether it's, in a business setting, or if it's in some sort of a fantasy or a sci-fi setting, or, what have you. And then what kind of a conflict is involved, because if you know those three things, that's really going to help inform the type of delivery that you're going to have. Beyond that, some things that you're going to want to have to take into consideration, equipment. People are always like, okay, what do I need to get? You don't need, thousands of dollars worth of equipment in order to get started in voiceover. You can get started with, something as simple as a lot of the modern, phone technology, smartphones, they've got they've got great microphones built into them. So that's a place that you could start at. After that, you can start looking into some of the, I guess, lower tier options. Things like I know the interface that you might want to be looking at would be the Scarlett 2i2. That's the one that I'm using. Um, and then there's some really good microphones that other voice actors have done a lot of research on. I haven't personally done a lot of research market wise for the microphones, but they're really low price point ones. Maybe $100, and you can get a decent one that would plug into the Scarlett, and it can take you potentially your entire career, without having to upgrade or do anything if you treat it right. And so we've got acting, we've got the equipment, and then just looking for opportunities. One really good resource that I've found, there's a voice actress. Her name is Sam Slade, and she's put together a spreadsheet on, I think it's Google Docs, that it has all of these different websites for people to look at, and it has listed out what kind of requirements they have for you to be on the website to use it, whether it's if they're paid subscriptions or not, whether you need to have demos or samples or anything like that, and all of this great information that's been compiled by other voice actors. So I think basically those three things should be able to get people started if it's something that they're really looking to get into.
Right, right, Grant. In terms of, uh, looking at from a business point of view now, you know, people generally know about voiceovers and all, but businesses have been traditionally, known to use it for advertising and a few other things.
Hmm.
Now a lot of businesses, small businesses are there, individuals are there who are solopreneurs, but who have got good amount of revenue coming in from whatever they are doing. How can, especially in India, we have got lots of small businesses, millions of them. How can businesses, especially small businesses, utilize voice acting, and what are the things that they can do it? What are you doing there for businesses, especially small businesses? What, help us understand this gamut so that people can utilize it. Secondly, join that with the artificial intelligence. A lot of this uh, whole artificial intelligence thing has come, that you can utilize any of those voices available online, and it will very easy for you. Then why would people go to a human actor? Rather they will go. So I want to understand two three things are so integrated here. I want to answer it in great detail so that businesses, especially small businesses, can utilize this particular industry, voice actors like you,
Hmm.
and make benefit in terms of business growth.
Right. So I think it's kind of important to realize what a voice actor's job is when it comes to businesses, because really, we're kind of the mouthpiece. That's the whole idea, is to use somebody who's trained their instrument, in this case the voice, and honed their craft in a way so that they can help people properly tell their message. Really, advertising, it's about building trust, building relationships, and getting the people who resonate with your message into the store or online so that they can access your goods or your services, and that they would know about it. So that's the reason for running the ads, and having all of the other free content that people could still access for your brand or what have you. So I think that's really kind of the main reason for having a voiceover, is to add in that human element. People trust other people. I think that's kind of the main competitive advantage that voiceovers still have over AI voices. AI voices, honestly, there are really good copycats, things that are out there that people can utilize, that uh, you know can put off, I guess you would call it a pretty believable performance. It's not quite up to the caliber that a regular human would be able to produce, but it is something that, you know, people are using them, and I don't think there's going to be a way for us to go back to a time when AI is not going to be an option for people. So really that's more of a detriment to people like me who are trying to get into the industry and help other people with all of the different projects that they've got going on. But honestly, I think that the way this is going to play out is that AI is primarily going to be utilized for a lot of the generic kind of information dissemination, you know, the kind of stuff that if somebody's just going on a website, like let's say you were to write up a blog post, you could easily plug that into some sort of an AI voice generator and it'll kick out something. I don't think that that work's ever going to uh, be missed necessarily because of the fact that there is so much work out there that, you know, voice actors are going to be able to, I think, adapt. And another thing too would be I anticipate a point in the future where voiceovers will also be utilizing AI in order to market themselves. And that's kind of, I think, the really important thing to distinguish here is that NAVA, that's an association here in the States that is fighting for voiceover rights. And the three, I guess, kind of four things that they're really hoping for to get into a lot of like voiceover contracts are things like consent, compensation, control, and then transparency over the use of their voice and being able to control the product. So, you know, people could theoretically in the future license my voice for whatever it is that they've got, as long as I know what it is that they want to use it for. I sign off on that. I know how much I'm getting paid from it, that type of stuff.
Right. In terms of you see AI, different places, I have seen that they give many options for male voice, female voice, and so is it good for the voice actors in that sense that they can earn money from that? And now a lot of voice actors would like to go on these platforms and tell them, listen, you also include my voice into your platform options, and then you can get money out of that. That will give you some sort of, uh, say, endorsement from those platforms because they have chosen you. This gives you more exposure. How does that work? How do you see that?
Yeah, so that's actually a really important, I think, distinction that hasn't quite been made along all of the different websites that have AI voices, uh, and all of the places that like people are acquiring the material in order to train these AI voices. So I think Microsoft or somebody was able to prove that they can essentially copy somebody's voice with about a 3-second clip of their audio, and there were some, you know, AI training or speech to text or what have you kind of jobs that have been out online, and people will complete the job, but then what's being done is they're taking the clips from that voice, using the AI technology to train these voices, and then they're not compensating the voiceovers. And I think that's where, you know, NAVA's mission to make sure that that's not the case going forward is really important. But I don't personally have an issue with things being done that way once we've got those controls in place. But until then, it's a bit of a gray area ethically, I think, and it's something that, again, people are going to do it one way or the other. So the faster that we can get to the point where I think voiceovers have that level of control involved, it'll make things just a whole lot smoother, and there won't be quite so much pushback from the actors on that side of things.
Right, right. So, how will you earn going forward? Is it a lucrative line? Is it a good line, or is it because there is no other option? So people who look for voice acting, a lot of youngsters would want to get some sort of practical answer on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that for anybody who isn't currently in voice acting that's looking to get into the industry, there's really two different classes of voice acting. You've got hobbyists and you've got professionals. And the hobbyists, you know, they're the people that they do it just because they enjoy the voice acting side of things, and it doesn't matter, what it is they're working on, as long as they're able to put out something that they enjoy making. I think if that's your goal, there really isn't a whole lot of consideration that needs to go into, being a hobbyist. If you were looking at being a professional, however, I think you're going to want to think very long and hard about the industry and sort of all of the different things that you may not already be considering, because it's not exactly the easiest thing to do is to break out into voiceover. I know that um, it's easier if you're able to get an agent, because then you get access to a lot of the better paying jobs, a lot of the more competitive ones, I would say. But now, again, because everything is out on the internet and it's a lot easier for everybody to access the rest of these jobs, again, the lower the barrier, the more people you're going to have applying to these different roles. And it's going to become, I think, a matter of, how fast can you respond to these things, because it's going to get inundated really quick. It's going to be, again, making sure that you've got really good quality voice, voice quality and acting skills to audition for these roles, because again, that's going to play a big part in whether or not you get any of these roles yourself. And sometimes it's even just luck. Some people, they might not be looking for a voice like yours for whatever characters they're envisioning, and I think that might be a little off-putting to a lot of the newcomers, not realizing the fact that, oh, if I audition for 100 different jobs, I might get one. And just understanding that kind of scope is sort of the norm. I think a lot of people could get burnt out quick not knowing that. So I think just having expectations set up front and knowing just how hard the industry really is to break into.
Right, Grant, right. Then how do you de-risk yourself? Because a voice actor will somehow be in a similar line. You can't just start into something new and build that separately. How do you de-risk yourself with the changes going on? Have you done any for yourself?
Yeah, so I think the best thing that somebody who wants to be a voice actor can do is, again, I keep going back to the acting piece. That's kind of step one. And if you wanted to build on that, there's different ways that you can specialize. So one thing would be to pick a specific type of project and specialize in just that and work on just honing that craft. My voice coach that I've been working with, Mark Cashman, he's been in the industry for 40 years. And, for the first, I would say, year that I was training under him, we focused on nothing but commercial scripts. So like, that's something that you could work on is focusing on just one segment of voiceover and really dialing in on that. Another thing that you could do, you could go to improv classes or actual performances. You could do stand-up. You could take other kinds of voice lessons like singing. I think understanding music and how music works, that's really beneficial to voiceover, because it helps you with the intonation and it helps you with the inflection. It helps you, have breath support so that you don't run out of air, halfway through a sentence as you're talking. And it just opens you up to a lot more possibilities.
Absolutely, a lot more possibilities. And you see, what be that as it may, as the industry keeps on changing, as machines are learning more about voices, where we will continue to learn more about how this whole industry is going forward and plan. I'm sure people are pragmatic and they will learn. Uh, a lot of people who would like to learn more about, voice acting. What is the best way for them? And obviously for people who want to, hire you or engage with you in a professional capacity, how do they connect with you?
Sure. Well, if they wanted to work with me directly, that'd be great. They can go to my website. It's grantjohnsonvo.com. On there, I've got links to some of my samples. I've got a link to my commercial demo. I've got my social accounts on there. And then I have also got my contact information listed on my website too. So
Wonderful, wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thanks, AJ.